أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا المبعوث رحمة للعالمين النبي الأمي العربي المكي المدني القرشي الحاشمي الذي سمي في السماء بأبي الزهراء أحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيت طيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتخبين المنتجبين لا سيما على بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء واللعنة الدائمة السرمدية الأبدية على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولله الأسماء الحسنى فادعوه بها صدق الله العلي العظيم. ارفعوا أصواتكم بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yesterday we discussed the meaning of the takbirat and the salam in Ziyarat al-Jami'a al-Kabirah. Today we continue this discussion, and I understand there is a shortage of time for all of the things I wanted to get through. So inshallah, some of the discussions may be a bit complex, but I will be going as quick as possible to try and get through as much content as possible. So please bear with me, inshallah. So today we will be looking at the next lines of Ziyarat al-Jami'a al-Kabirah. Yesterday we spoke about the line Assalamu alaikum ya Ahlulbayt al-Nubuwah. Today we are looking at the line wa Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah wa Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikat. Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah refers to the place of the Risalah, of the message, and Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikat refers to the frequenting of the angels coming down and going. So this is the meaning of these two lines, which we will go into depth with regards to today. So let us begin, inshallah, with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first thing that we see is that the Ziyarah teaches us to say wa Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah. The Mawḍiʿ of the Risalah, in terms of the place of the message, the Risalah. This is a strange wording. Usually, we would expect for the wording to be used like Hamalat al-Risalah, the people that carry the message, or Muballighi al-Risalah, the ones who convey the message. These are the language or the words that we are used to when we look at the word of Risalah, or we are speaking about the messengers or the Imams alayhi salam. These are the words that are usually used. Why is it here that it uses the word Mawḍiʿ? Why is the emphasis on the idea that they are the place or the site or the locus upon which the message rests? This is what we want to look at first of all. What do we see and what does it mean when it says Risalah? When we look at a linguistic meaning here, we're looking at two things. We're looking at irsal, which means sending something, and we are looking at al-istirsal, which means the continuity or the succession of something continuously being sent and continuously being conveyed. This is the meaning of the Risalah here as it is being spoken about linguistically. Therefore, the Rasul, he receives from the Mursil, which is Allah, who is sending, and the Rasul continuously conveys this message, and he is the Mawḍiʿ, he is the individual upon which the Risalah stands. We see that in the language, we see Rasul sometimes is used to speak about the messenger himself, and other times you see that Rasul refers to the message itself. Linguistically, Rasul can be used both ways. So we understand therefore that the Rasul cannot be separated from the Risalah. And that is why here in the Ziyarah it mentions Mawḍiʿ al-Risalah. Mawḍiʿ of the Risalah means that the place of the message of Islam, or in its primary sense, is within this individual. And we are speaking here about Ahlulbayt al-Nubuwah, as we mentioned yesterday, which are the 14 Ma'sumeen. Of course, the first of them is Rasulullah, who is the first Mawḍiʿ al-Risalah, and by extension, the rest of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. In order to understand these words, we don't only rely on language. We rely on the principles of the Kitab and the Etra. When we look at the Arabic language, a lot of the time it is qasir, it is not able to explain the higher meanings of the religion in the same way that the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam mean it in its haqiqah, in its reality. Language is not the source of knowledge, rather it is a medium through which knowledge is transmitted or conveyed. And language is something with limitations. Therefore, there are haqa'iq, and there are symbols, and there are things behind these words that are still to be understood and are also part of that knowledge. We understand this from the kitab and the etra, from the principles that are used and taught by the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. In some of my previous lectures, I've spoken about the deeper meanings behind the Qur'an. The Imams mentioned, alayhimus salam, that the Qur'an is upon four things. You have the ibarah, which is the apparent sentence form or the apparent words that are used. Then you have the ishara, which is the indications, you can say. Then you have the lata'if, which are the subtleties. And then you have the haqa'iq, which are the realities. The Imam mentions al-ibaratu lil-awam, the apparent meanings are for the lay individuals, the normal individuals. Wal-isharatu lil-khawas, and the indications are for the specific people, special people. Wal-lata'if lil-awliya, and the subtleties of the meanings are for the awliya of Allah. Wal-haqa'iq lil-anbiya, and the realities are for the prophets. So the Imams alayhimus salam, they have set these four categories with regards to the Qur'an. The same thing applies with regards to the ahadith of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. There are many layers of meaning when we are speaking about the words of the Ahlulbayt, and therefore also with regards to this word, when we say Risalah, there are layers to this. It's not speaking about only one aspect of Risalah, rather it is speaking about a multifaceted understanding when we speak about the word Risalah. Also, on top of this, on top of these four categories in the ahadith of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam, we also have the use of taqiyya, for example. In some cases, the narrations are said in the presence of individuals that should not know the truth, for example. So the Imams use taqiyya. For some reasons, Imam sometimes uses mudarat, which is sometimes when the Shia even are unable to understand something fully, the Imam breaks it down for them in an easier way or gives them a lighter version of the truth. This also exists in the ahadith. So therefore, we need to look at the greatest meanings of words when we are trying to understand them, especially in Ziyarat al-Jami'a al-Kabirah. Because as we understood, this is a baligh and comprehensive text. This is a precise text. Therefore, the words that are used are also very precise and they have to be taken upon their greatest meaning. So the Risalah, when we are looking at it, how do we understand it? If we look at the statements of the Ma'sumeen, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, Inni la atakallamu bil kalimati ala sab'ina wajha. He says, sometimes when I speak, I will use a word upon which there will be 70 aspects or 70 ways that it can be understood. Li min kulliha al-makhraj. I have intended all 70 of those meanings when I have said that. So the Imam, when he's speaking on multiple layers. And we understand from the hadith that it is important that we try to uncover these meanings. As the Imam say, لا يكون الرجل منكم فقيها حتى يعرف معارض كلامنا. None from you will ever be a scholar, a understanding or a knowledgeable individual, a scholar, until he understands the intention behind our words. And the intentions behind the words of the Imams are multifaceted. So when we are looking at the Risalah, what are we speaking about? When we think about the Risalah, we think about the Risalah of the religion, primarily. We think about Tashri', we think about the Sharia that has reached us from Rasulullah. This is what we understand to be the Risalah in general. This is Risalah in the Tashri'. This is in the legislative form of Risalah. But there is a Risalah that is greater than that. And that is the Risalah of Wujud. And this is the Risalah in the Takween, in the creational sense. And this is a greater Risalah. So when we are speaking here about Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah, we are speaking about the individual through whom the Risalah of Wujud is written. Everything in existence is written and fashioned through this individual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places this individual, Rasulullah, as the conduit through which he fashions the rest of existence. How do we prove this, or where do we see this? This discussion, first of all, we see this in the Quran itself. We see it, for example, in Surah al-Qalam. Allah begins the surah by saying, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun. He says Noon, and the pen, and what they both together inscribe and write. When we look at the Hadith of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam with regards to the tafsir of this verse of the Quran, in Tafsir al-Burhan, we see a hadith from Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam. The companion says, سألته عن قول الله عز وجل نون والقلم وما يسطرون فقال. He asked him about this ayah. Imam al-Kadhim responded, فالنون اسم لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله والقلم اسم لأمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. He says that the noon here is in reference to Rasulullah, is one of his names, and the qalam is Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Some of the mufassirin have mentioned that this is speaking about, of course, when we're speaking about the qalam, we understand that this is not the pens that we write with, of course. When Allah is speaking about the qalam, He is speaking about the qalam which was from one of His first creations, through which He writes upon the Lawh al-Mahfuz, or through which He writes the laws of existence and creation that come after. Here Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam is saying Noon is the reality of Rasulullah and the pen is the reality of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So we understand therefore that the Noon here, when it is speaking about the reality of Rasulullah, is speaking about al-Haqiqatul Muhammadiyah, that through which you can say is the inkwell, is the source of the ink, is the source of everything that was used in order to create the rest of creation. Wal-Qalam is Amir al-Mu'mineen, in that the pen is the Alawi reality, that through the use of the Muhammadan reality is used to write the laws of existence. This is what we understand from this hadith. And then the ayah says, وَمَا يَسْطُرُونَ, in that these two together, the Noon and the Qalam, together write the laws of existence. This is what we are speaking about when we're speaking about the Risalah of Wujud. We're speaking about the Risalah of Wujud that was primarily brought down through the reality of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and paired with the reality of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam to create the rest of existence. This is the meaning of Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah. And we see this in the Hadith in al-Kafi from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. In volume 1 he mentions, إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ إِذْ لَا كَانَ فَخَلَقَ الْكَانَ وَالْمَكَانَ. That Allah was there when there was no space or time to exist in. Allah is beyond space and time. He existed before this. فَخَلَقَ الْكَانَ وَالْمَكَانَ. So He created the place for something to be and the time in which it is. وَخَلَقَ نُورُ الْأَنْوَارِ الَّذِي نُوِّرَتْ مِنْهُ الْأَنْوَارِ. Then He created the light through which every other light got its light. وَأَجْرَى فِيهِ مِن نُورِهِ الَّذِي نُوِّرَتْ مِنْهُ الْأَنْوَارِ. And He flowed in it His own light, the light of Allah, through which all other lights gained light. Then he mentions, وَهُوَ النُّورُ الَّذِي خَلَقَ مِنْهُ مُحَمَّدًا وَعَلِيًّا. And that is the light through which He created Muhammad and Ali. فَلَمْ يَزَالَا نُورَيْنِ أَوَّلَيْنِ إِذْ لَا شَيْءٍ كَوَّنَ قَبْلَهُمَا. So they were the first two lights as nothing was created before them. فَلَمْ يَزَالَا يَجْرِيَانِ طَاهِرَيْنِ مُطَهَّرَيْنِ فِي الْأَصْلَابِ الطَّاهِرَةِ حَتَّى افْتَرَقَا فِي أَطْهَرِ الطَّاهِرَيْنِ. So these two lights remained in the loins of the humans, of the prophets, until they became separate at two individuals, two pure individuals. في عبد الله وأبي طالب عليهما السلام. They became separated into the nur of Rasulullah went into Abdullah, and the nur of Ali went into Abu Talib. So they were created from this light and they were born from this light. This is the story of the creation of Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen. So we see here therefore that the noon and the pen, they were the primordial inscription. These are existences that were there prior to everything else in creation. Therefore they were used and they were the tool by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the rest of creation. When we speak about this qalam, where does it write? That is another question. What is the reality of where this pen writes? When we are speaking about the pen being the Alawi reality, it is written upon the heart of Muhammad. The reality of all existence, Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah al-Wujud, is in the heart of Muhammad. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, his heart is that which carries the Risalah al-Wujud. This is the actual Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah. This is the place of the Risalah of the Wujud, the heart of Rasulullah, which contains all of these realities in his heart. And this is also the case for the successors that come after him, as they also carry the nur of Muhammad within them and the nur of Ali. So we see therefore that the Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam all become that individual or that locus of the Risalah of Wujud in which they carry the realities of all of existence in their hearts. This is the meaning of Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah. And this is also the case for Fatimah al-Zahra. In the first narration we spoke about Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen. Their lights, of course, are the greatest of lights. However, Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra is the barzakh between the two lights, which Allah created as the barzakh between Muhammad and Ali. This is the greatness of Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra, which we also see in the Hadith, in al-Kafi from Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. And this is the purest belief of the Shia. Listen to what Imam al-Jawad says. He mentions, Ya Muhammad, he's speaking to Muhammad ibn Sinan, one of the companions of the Imam. He mentions, Ya Muhammad, Inna Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, lam yazal mutafarridan bi wahdaniyati. Allah was alone in his oneness. ثم خلق محمدا وعليا وفاطمة. Then he created Muhammad and Ali and Fatima. فمكثوا ألف دهر. ثم خلق جميع الأشياء فأشهدهم خلقها وأجرى طاعتهم عليها وفوض أمورها إليهم. He says, after he created Muhammad and Ali and Fatima, they stayed together for 1,000 lifetimes. 1,000 lifetimes in the Arabic language, alf is the greatest number. This means a endless amount of lifetimes. Muhammad and Ali and Fatima and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These were the only things in existence. Then Allah created all other things. فَأَشْهَدَهُمْ خَلْقَهَا. So He made them witness His creation. وَأَجْرَى طَاعَتَهُمْ عَلَيْهَا. And He made everything that He created in obedience to these three. Then the hadith says something very beautiful. And listen very carefully to this. Then He says, فَهُمْ يُحِلُّونَ مَا يَشَاءُونَ وَيُحَرِّمُونَ مَا يَشَاءُونَ وَلَنْ يَشَاءُوا إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. So they make halal that which they want, and they make haram that which they want, and they will not wish anything except that Allah wishes it first. What do we understand from this? When they are saying halal and haram, we are not speaking about fiqh and tashri'. Here the discussion is about takween, it's about creation. The discussion is about the creation of the universe, the creation of existence. So here we are speaking about them making halal and haram, those things in existence itself. Not about the laws of prayer and of tahara and all of these things that we read in our fiqh. We are speaking about the laws of existence that Allah delegated and gave and used Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra as conduits in order to write these laws. This is the meaning of Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah that we are reading. Then Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam says very, very clearly, this is a hadith in al-Kafi. Shaykh al-Kulayni, when he collected the narrations in al-Kafi, he mentions in his introduction that I was requested to write a book that was sufficient, that includes the reliable narrations of the Imams. This is the hadith that he collects in his book. He mentions, Imam al-Jawad says, Ya Muhammad, هذه الديانة التي من تقدمها مرق ومن تخلف عنها مهق ومن لزمها لحق خذها إليك يا محمد. He says, this is the religion, this is the belief that I have just explained to you with regards to Muhammad and Ali and Fatima. If whoever goes ahead of it, whoever says more than this, whoever does ghulu and goes further than this, then he has broken away from our saying. And whoever stays behind this, that doesn't accept this, he is destroyed. And whoever adheres to what I have said, then they will hold on to the truth. خُذْهَا إِلَيْكَ يَا Muhammad. Take it with you, O Muhammad. This is the correct religion. This is the belief with regards to Muhammad and Ali and Fatima. They are the essence, you can say, of Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah. And the Imams alayhim salam that come after are a continuation of this reality. And this is the Risalah of Wujud. which is present with the members of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, all of those whom we mentioned in the beginning of the Ziyarah. Assalamu alaikum ya Ahl Baytin Nubuwah. Recite as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In this Risalah al-Wujud, what is the content of it? This is also a very important thing to understand. What is the content of this Risalah of al-Wujud that Rasulullah primarily from his heart is delivered to all of us, those who need the message, and all of creation? We see this meaning in Surat al-Fath. Allah says in the Quran, after the Basmala, He mentions, Inna arsalnaka shahidan wa mubashiran wa nadhira. Indeed, we sent you as a witness, a bearer of glad tidings, and a warner. Then He mentions why He sent him. Why did Allah send Rasulullah? لِتُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَتُعَزِّرُوهُ وَتُوَقِّرُوهُ وَتُسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. He says, so that you may believe in Allah and His Messenger, support Him, honor Him, and glorify Him morning and evening. The main haqiqah of this Risalah is the tusabbihuhu. The tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Risalah of all of Wujud. And this is the content of the Risalah, which we also see in the Quran with regards to all of creation. Allah mentions in Surah al-Isra after the Basmala, تُسَبِّهُ لَهُ السَّمَاوَاتُ السَّبْعُ وَالْأَرْضُ وَمَنْ فِيهِنَّ. That for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the seven skies glorify Him, and the earth glorifies Him, the earth glorifies Him, and everything that is on it also glorifies Him. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّهُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيهَهُ. He says, and there is nothing except that it glorifies Allah, it does tasbih of Allah, but you are not able to understand their glorification, their tasbih. إِنَّهُ كَانَ حَلِيمًا غَفُورًا. Indeed, He is forbearing and all forgiving. Of course, all of these seven heavens and all of these things in creation, who are they gaining this Risalah of Wujud from? They are gaining it from none other than Muhammad, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Which we also see in the Quran, where Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except as a mercy to all of the worlds. So these seven heavens, the earth, everything upon it, who are they learning their tasbih from? They are learning from the heart of Rasulullah and the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. This is the meaning of Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah, which continues. So He's the medium through which the whole of existence knows Allah. And there are two types of tasbih. There is a tasbih that is tasbih al-Wujud, existential glorification. All of us, everything in creation glorifies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if we cannot understand it, all of us. This is the first type of tasbih. This is that which includes the plants and the trees and everything in existence glorifies Allah, including us. And there's a second type of tasbih, the tasbih al-ibadah, which is the tasbih that we are commanded to do. This is if we are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we do the tasbih. We say subhanallah, we say Allahu Akbar, we have the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on our tongues, in our hearts and in our actions. This is the objective of the individual, that he must become in line with his existential glorification with Allah. All of us are existentially glorifying Allah, whether we like it or not. But whether we have the ibadah of tasbih, that is our choice. This is where the tashri' comes in. So we have the takwini Risalah of Wujud that we receive from Rasulullah, whether we like it or not. And we have the tashri'i, in which Rasulullah has taught us the dhikr of Allah, which we have a choice whether we follow or we do not follow this. So this is an overview when we are speaking about Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah. Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah is the center of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything in terms of the faith, of the generosity, of everything that comes down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sends it through the haqiqah al-Muhammadiyya. This is the reality of Rasulullah that is given to us in Ziyarat al-Jami'a al-Kabirah, which is through our own limited understanding. Because the Imam, as I mentioned, he is speaking to a companion so that the companion can do the Ziyarah to the best of his ability, not the actual reality of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. The actual reality of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam cannot be described in words. All of that which we say here is just us trying our best to understand the role of Muhammad wa al Muhammad in existence. Recite as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The next line we are speaking about here is وَمُخْتَلَفَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikas means the place which angels continually frequent. Why? Why do they do this? Because they also gain their Risalah of Wujud from the Ma'soom, from the heart of the Ma'soom. And they have greater knowledge of where to find that Risalah, the Risalah of Wujud, than us. They are able to frequent the Imam in this way. And the angels also, they learn their Tawheed from who? They learn their Tawheed also from the Ahlulbayt alayhi salam. We see this in a hadith from Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam in a very lengthy narration. I can't read all of it, I don't think we have the time. In Bihar al-Anwar he mentions, he's speaking about the angels at the beginning of creation. He mentions, فَلَمَّا شَاهَدُوا أَرْوَاهَنَا نُورًا وَاحِدًا اسْتَعْظَمُوا أَمْرَنَا. When they saw us all together, all of the Ahlulbayt, as one light, they magnified us. So what did we do? فَسَبَّحْنَا لِتَعْنَمَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ أَنَّا خَلْقٌ مَخْلُوقٌ. He says, so we said the tasbih so that they can understand that we are also created beings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels were confused. They didn't know what is this reality that we are seeing. So they said the tasbih so that the angels could understand that these are also creations of Allah. وَأَنَّهُ مُنَزَّهٌ عَنْ صِفَاتِنَا. That we wanted to show them that Allah is still greater than that which you see from our reality. فَسَبَّحَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ بِتَسْبِيهِنَا وَنَزَّهَتْهُ عَنْ صِفَاتِنَا. So the angels also began to say the tasbih after they heard us say the tasbih. And then he continues and he explains how they taught the angels to say La ilaha illallah so that they can understand that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that they can understand Tawheed. And they taught them to say Allahu Akbar, which is also what we discussed yesterday with regards to the meaning of Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbaru min an yusaf. Until Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam completes his saying with regards to this hadith. What does he say? He mentions فَبِنَا اهْتَدُوا إِلَى مَعْرِفَةِ تَوْحِيدِ اللَّهِ وَتَسْبِيهِهِ وَتَحْلِيلِهِ وَتَحْمِيدِهِ وَتَمْجِيدِهِ. He says, so through us, the Ahlulbayt alayhi salam, the angels were able to understand the tahleel of Allah, la ilaha illallah. They were able to understand the takbir of Allah, Allahu Akbar. They were able to understand the tasbih of Allah, subhanallah. Through the understanding of the haqiqatul Muhammadiyya. So the angels, when we look at the function of angels, what do? Angels worship Allah day and night. Even this they learnt from Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So who else will they go to again and again? Who will they frequent other than them? What do we mean when we say Mukhtalaf? Mukhtalaf, when we say it in our generic language, usually we mean it to understand disagreement. اختلاف. When someone has an يعني يختلف مع شخص آخر, يعني he disagrees with another person. What does this mean when we say Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikas? Why is this used? In the language, in the Arabic language, we have different meanings of the word ikhtilaf. For example, we can say ikhtalaftu ilayhi. This would not mean that I disagreed with him. This would mean that I repeatedly went to him. Ikhtalaftu ilayhi. If you say ikhtalaftu ma'ahu, this means I disagreed with him. So these are the two meanings of ikhtilaf. And this is the meaning of Rasulullah when he mentions ikhtilafu ummati rahma. Some people have mistakenly translated this. They say that the disagreements between the ummah of Rasulullah is a rahmah. No, of course it's not a rahmah. What he means when he says ikhtilaf ummati rahmah, he means ikhtilafuhum ilayya, that they must return to me repeatedly and frequently to understand the religion. Returning to Rasulullah again and again to understand the religion, that is the rahmah of Allah towards the ummah of Rasulullah. This is the meaning of ikhtilafu ummati rahmah. So therefore, al-Mukhtalaf here is speaking about the destination from which the angels, they consequently and frequently they visit. And they are the locus of their ascent and their descent. We see this in the hadith of Rasulullah where he mentions of all that Allah created, there are no creations that are more in number than the angels. The angels are vast in number. There are the angels that are in the heavens, they worship Allah. There are the angels that have the duties from Allah, taking of the souls, giving the rizq, writing down. All of these things are done by angels. They are in a great number. Then he mentions every day and night, 70,000 angels descend. 70,000 angels descend every day and night. First, where do they go? They go towards the Kaaba to do tawaf. Then they go to Rasulullah. Rasulullah himself is speaking. ثم يأتون رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله ثم يأتون أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام فيسلمون عليه. Then they go to Amir al-Mu'mineen after Rasulullah. ثم يأتون الحسن والحسين عليه السلام فيقيموا عندهما. So they come and they visit Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein and they stay with them, with Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein, until it comes to the time of Fajr and they ascent to heaven. Imagine this. Those 70,000 angels that came down that night, they never return to the earth again, because it is the turn of other angels now to come down. So they only get one chance to come down to the earth, to do the tawaf, to meet Rasulullah, to meet Amir al-Mu'mineen, to meet Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein, and then they return to the heavens to never return again. These are how many angels there are in the creation of Allah. How many angels are coming down upon the heart of the Ma'soom in every moment. This is just one angle of the angels coming down. As I mentioned, there are multiple different types of angels. And we understand in the Hadith, there are the angels that circumambulate the graves of the Imams alayhim salam as well. We see this in the Hadith of Kamil Ziyarat, that 70,000 angels are constantly around the grave of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And Imam al-Kadhim mentions in a hadith that there is no angel that Allah sends down upon the earth, whether it is for any affair, for the taking of lives, for the rizq, for the writing down of the actions of the servants, except that they present themselves before the Hujjah of Allah on earth. And today, who is that? That is Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman is not in any real ghaibah. The reality of the Imam is interwoven in the reality of this existence. It is us that do not see the Imam. The Imam is being visited frequently by the angels. He is Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikas in today's time. And this is where we see this in Surat al-Qadr. Surat al-Qadr. What does Allah say? Allah says after the Basmala, تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالْرُوحُ فِيهَا بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ. تَنَزَّلُ. He does not say نَزَلَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ. He does not use the past tense, that they once came down on Laylatul Qadr to Rasulullah. He uses the continual form. تَنَزَّلُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ وَالْرُوحُ فِيهَا بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ أَمْرٍ. That they come down with the Ruh, the Ruh al-Qudus, which is also a whole other discussion with regards to what is the Ruh al-Qudus. And also the permission of Allah with all the affairs of Allah. Min kulli am. This is all that comes down upon the heart of the Ma'soom. This is the meaning of Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikas, the angels descending upon Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. So when we say to the Imam in Ziyarat al-Jami'a, Assalamu alaykum ya Ahlulbayt al-Nubuwah wa Mawḍiʿ al-Risālah wa Mukhtalaf al-Malā'ikas, we are making an acknowledgement and we are pledging and we are saying that this reality of Risalah did not end with Rasulullah. That the coming and the descending of angels did not end with Rasulullah. There is a continuation of this Risalah of Wujud in the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, in the Imams of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. And to this day, it continues. This is the meanings that we are reading about in Ziyarat al-Jami'a. And as I said yesterday, these are overviews. These are shortened meanings that we are discussing. When we look at the books of our noble scholars in commentary of Ziyarat al-Jami'a, they go on for pages and pages and volumes about Ziyarat al-Jami'a. But inshallah, we will suffice with this explanation. And inshallah, today is the third night, so it's the final night of our discussions with regards to the Ziyarah. If we have the tawfiq, inshallah, we will continue these discussions about this blessed Ziyarah in the future. Inshallah, recite Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The main reason we have gathered in these 3 blessed nights is to commemorate a very honorable lady, a Fatima from the Fawatim, Lady Ma'sooma, Lady Fatimatul Ma'sooma, who her ziyarah, as Imam al-Jawad said, as Imam al-Rida said, if you were to go towards her in ziyarah, wajabat lakumul Jannah. Jannah will be made obligatory upon you. This is the status of the lady we are speaking about. The status of the lady whom, not being from the 14 infallibles, she has this title, al-Ma'sooma. She has a level of isma that she takes secondarily from the Imams of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. This is a lady that we can compare and we can place on the levels alongside Sayyidah Zainab and other Fawatim of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. What is the story of this lady? This lady was the sister of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. In the year 200 after Hijrah, al-Ma'mun, la'natullahi alayhi, he calls upon Imam al-Rida and he calls him to Khurasan. He says that none of your family members can accompany you to Khurasan. They must remain in Medina. So Sayyidah Ma'sooma also remains in Medina. A year passes and Sayyidah Ma'sooma understands that she misses her brother, but also Sayyidah Ma'sooma was a woman of great knowledge. Many individuals, they just mentioned that Sayyidah Ma'sooma, she missed her brother and that is why she went to leave to go to Khurasan. But the amr is greater than that. Sayyidah Ma'sooma was that lady that when individuals used to come with questions to Imam al-Kadhim, from behind the veil, she would answer all of their questions before Imam al-Kadhim would come. This is the great status of this lady. She understood that her brother is in need of her, that the Abbasids are trying to make use of Imam al-Rida. She understood this, so she wanted to go and to support her brother, to be like Zainab with Imam al-Hussein, to be the spine of her brother in Khurasan. So she left from Medina with a group of Banu Hashim. Some of the reports mention that in her caravan there were 23 individuals and they were led by the son of Imam al-Kadhim. His name was Harun ibn Musa al-Kadhim. So they went and they decided that they would go to Khurasan through the route of Saveh. Saveh is a place in Iran nearby to Qum. As they were traveling and they were with the caravan of 23 people, the people of Ma'mun heard that Ma'sooma was coming to support her brother in Khurasan. So he sent his soldiers towards them and they ambushed the caravan and they killed the men from Banu Hashim, including the son of Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Sayyidah Ma'sooma sitting in Saveh, she hears the news of the martyrdom of her brother in Khurasan. She becomes severely ill and she remains in Saveh, and some of the enemies of Ahlulbayt alayhim salam, a woman from them, would hear that Sayyidah Ma'sooma was still determined to go to Khurasan. So she put poison in the food of Sayyidah Ma'sooma. And Sayyidah Ma'sooma died the death of a shaheeda, like the rest of the Ahlulbayt alayhim salam. Prior to this, the family of Sa'd al-Ash'ari in Qum had asked that Sayyidah Ma'sooma was brought to Qum. So his whole family came to Saveh to accompany Sayyidah Ma'sooma towards Qum. And she remained there in Qum for another 2 weeks to 18 days until she finally reached her martyrdom. This was a lady that wanted to fulfill the position of Zainab with her brother Imam al-Rida. She also saw her brother be killed by the enemies. The reports don't mention the description of the fighting. They don't mention how these members of Banu Hashim were killed. But Sayyidah Ma'sooma saw as Harun, the son of Imam al-Kadhim, was struck with a sword. When he fell to the ground, she saw the swords come upon her brothers as well, like Zainab. Sayyidah Ma'asuma would have thought of Zainab in that moment. Ya Sayyidah Ma'asuma, yes, you saw your brothers get killed, but come to Karbala, O Sayyidah Ma'asuma. Come and see how the tents were burnt. Come and see how the daughters of Rasulullah were looted. Come and see how they were made to walk from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, in chains. Come and see how they made her stand in Kufa and in Sham to give sermons to explain the greatness of Ahlulbayt alayhimus salam. Come and see how Zainab stands in front of Yazid and she says the praises of her father and her grandfather. Come and see how after all of this Sayyidah Zainab says, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. مات Hussein.